What's interesting about the lyrical poet as Nietzsche conceives him is that he is something of a medium. I am unsure of Nietzsche's metaphysics. My study of Nietzsche as an undergraduate would make me suspect that a Nietzschean metaphysics would be oxymoronic. Yet Nietzsche may have won nonetheless. It looks as if Nietzsche views the Apollonian and the Dionysian impulses very differently. They are not just instincts within every individual. The Apollonian yields comforting illusion, and maybe in a sense it could be called incorrect. Whereas the Dionysian shatters the principle of individuation and puts man in touch with the primordial truth of the oneness of all being. Nietzsche in these pages is fond of speaking of that Dionysian truth and instinct as the only thing that is true, and then it drives all art creation. Here it sounds like Nietzsche is describing a collective undergirding force that drives all existence and all creation, art creation that is. This is a very strange thing to attribute to Nietzsche if his cultural catchphrase is God is dead. It looks as if he has found some sort of pantheism here. We'll have to revisit this to see if this is true and if it is problematic later on in our lecture. The other interesting problem that Nietzsche's speak creates is that the Dionysian is ultimately responsible for the art made, and that art is often manifested in the form of humans. If the Dionysian is driving the lyric poet is simultaneously the subject and the object of art. He seems to be a participant in his own transfiguration by the eternal essence. So when Nietzsche speaks about our lives being aesthetically justified by art, he seems to have something deeper in mind than I initially interpreted. Initially, when he said our lives were aesthetically justified by art, I thought he meant that the creation of art via the intermingling of these art impulses allowed us to properly deal with the existential reality. That seems to be an incorrect now, or perhaps a lesser truth. What he seems to be really saying in this passage is that our lives are metaphysically justified by art when we are but instruments or creations of the Dionysian. So there are a lot of questions here. If I've read Nietzsche correctly, and I may have not, why is the Apollonian impulse not deified in the exact same way? It seems to play a role in the creation of art just as much. Why is it merely a reflexive instinct, I should say? Could it be that the Dionysian is somehow in control of the Apollonian? Would this account mean that those plastic art creations are not legitimate forms of art for Nietzsche, since they spring from the Apollonian impulse directly and not the Dionysian? Or can the Dionysian take credit for everything since it sets things in motion?